G'day guys, and welcome to episode 6.
Yeah, it's good to have you back, and it's nice to see you again, Matt.
Likewise. And what's been happening in the world of Lachlan and Kashi?
Look, we've been seeing a lot of really strange cars lately. So on the docket coming up today, I've got a Bath 124.
Oh, nice.
This week I'll be seeing probably a Porsche 928.
Very cool.
A lot of
This
stuff.
wouldn't be the one from the Variety Bash?
It was the one from the Variety Bash.
There we go.
He's decided to take it off of its lifted suspension, put it back on some really nice wheels that he got for a decent price.
Yep.
And he's now just fixing up a couple of things and deciding.
Nice.
Deciding
That's
his next steps.
Good to see it's like being looked after, and you know the car's gonna have a long life.
Yeah,
thanks to Kashi.
Well, look, some of our customers are really awesome, awesome like that. Just love their cars and keep treating them right. So
beautiful.
Quite a few of the people we see get their cars done every 5,000 Ks every time they go on a trip, and they just do every recommendation. It's great to have people like that.
Perfect customers. And I think I know someone within a Bath as well.
Yeah, well, me.
Yeah, there's a few of us. And with one of the popular sort of topics at the moment is, you know, you try and get your cars to use as little fuel as possible and have the smallest carbon footprint. And really, one of the ways to reduce your carbon footprint is to not change your car as often. Because producing the car is what creates a lot of the wastage, and you know, they're mining cobalt, and it's a popular topic at the moment. But just all of the efforts, fuel and material into creating a new car is quite massive.
Yeah, I heard about that recently as well. It's pretty mental. But there's all sorts of stuff that you can do to, like, just yourself reduce your carbon footprint with the cars as well. Servicing regularly keeps the engines in good shape, which means that you're not using as much fuel. Check your tyre pressures, get a wheel alignment. That's going to change your fuel economy by a litre per 100 or so. And then really simple stuff like try not to have your rooftop tent bolted on all the time, because that reduces your drag coefficient.
Aero would be all over the place.
The best one that I've noticed, the best two that I've noticed is in my ute, if I go over 100 k's per hour, I increase my fuel economy by 2 litres per 100. So reduce my fuel economy. So I have to cruise on the highway at 97. If I go anything over that.
You're that guy.
Yeah.
You're that guy. Whenever I'm stuck on the highway and getting annoyed with the person in front of me.
I always make sure I stay behind a caravan so it doesn't look like it's me.
Oh, there you go. You're, what do you call it? Drafting.
Yeah, exactly.
Drafting behind, even better.
But that gives me, in the ute, that gives me like 2 litres per 100.
Yep. I find the same thing, you know. I'm my daily is a diesel, so it's pretty good. But yeah, I just, you know, if I'm getting pretty low, I try and push the outer limits of my fuel tank, and I'll just jump in, you know, 90 odd, and then left lane and just hit on cruise.
There's two types of people. There's two types of people in the world, and there's those of us that try and get every drop out of the tank, then there's my girlfriend gets under a quarter tank and starts to panic about how far. We were going to the shops yesterday, and she had a quarter tank left, and she didn't know if we'd make it back. So,
well, I always thought that if you're on the empty line, you got enough fuel to get you to the Gold Coast.
Yeah, about 100, I think.
Well, someone will prove us wrong, that's for sure. Well, we better get into it, and we'll start with the news stories. And the first news story that we came across was it was Latvia is with the cars that they seize through drink driving and those sort of things, they're actually sending it to the war effort in the Ukraine.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't heard about this until you brought it up. But it's probably a much better thing to do than what we do, which is crushing them or selling them off.
What a waste, isn't it?
Especially...
It's crazy.
I mean, hooning's not good, but to take someone's car that they've spent $20,000-$30,000 on and just turn it into $1,000 of scrap, that's horror.
No, it is terrible, and you do feel for the people who lose their cars. but an interesting story, and I'm just picturing the Ukraine army, you know, going into a battlefield in a little GM Metro or something like that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something.
Hanging out the window with a gun.
Something that I've just thought of, which is probably a bit interesting. This must make the Ukrainian army's mechanics division have a lot more trouble. So
Supply chain would be horrendous.
So instead of just one type of army vehicle, they're now running around in Golfs and Opals and all sorts of stuff. It must be pretty interesting to be an army mechanic now.
You look at that and you think about the logistics, and it seems like it's almost a bit of a curse, because wars have been lost on supply chains being back to front on tanks and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what happened through a lot of the major losses in the world wars, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Supply chain issues. So
Yep.
I mean, it's probably great to have a bunch of cars dropped off for use for like running
there might be throwaway cars or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they end up as roadblocks or something.
Well, they could do that.
I know a few Volkswagens that'd suit that.
Well, I'm thinking that, like, the perfect car, like civilian car for a war zone, it's probably a car close to your heart. I think it'd be the Volvo. Yep. Plenty around that sort of part of the world, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's European, so they were massively popular through, and especially the 24740s. They had like a 30-year production run. Yep. And they used the same motor the entire way.
Perfect. Perfect. There you go.
But incredibly strong cars, those old Volvos.
Yeah, hard to kill.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the I'm going to get the model number. Is it P2600 or something like that? The old car from the Saint. Now someone's got that in the States, and they've done a record of some sort for the most kilometres driven on a car. Yep. That was a Volvo.
I know the guy. Well, I don't know him personally, but I know the story.
Know the story,
it's a P1800.
P1800. There you go.
Or P1800S.
Yep.
Which came with a 1.8 inline 4.
Yep.
Carbureted, and he's done over 3 million kilometres on. I think
kilometres or miles?
I can't remember. I'm
going to say miles.
But
that part of the world,
3 million plus kilometres or miles is huge.
Yeah.
And I think he's still on the original engine.
Wow.
Yeah. So just regular oil changes. His carbon footprint's tiny.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, saving the world. Well, it's amazing news, and so that's why we bring it to you. But another news story that I've come across is GM have filed a patent for an auto trailer pickup. So that's what they call it on the headline. But what it is hands-free trailer parking. So they've got the smarts. They've done the work. They utilise their reverse camera and obviously some pretty clever algorithms, and they can autopilot reversing a car with a trailer on board. Yeah, I wonder, pretty clever.
Pretty curious to see how it works. I wonder if you've got to tell the car how long the trailer is, or what happens there.
That's a real good question, because they come in all different sizes and shapes.
But that's pretty mental. It's one of the hardest things to learn when you're dealing with trailers, is how to reverse, because everything's a bit backwards, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to save a few marriages.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. But I think on a future episode we might even show some reverse cameras without that feature. Yeah. But there's some cool tech out there nonetheless, and we can show it to you. So we might do that on a future episode.
I've got one of I think I've got one of your reverse cameras in my ute, and it's a great bit of kit. Yeah. Because my canopy is a box canopy. Can't see through it. The reverse camera's made a massive difference for me. Yeah. I can switch it on, see who's behind me. I can park better.
You got yours on a switch?
No, but through my head unit.
Oh, through it. Yep.
Through
and
my
you
head
can just
unit,
push a button on there.
Push a button, and I have it up instantly. So it's great.
There's all sorts of cool things you can do with electronics, and if you've got a good head unit that's smart enough to turn a camera on and off at a whim, but sometimes you just got a dumb screen, and it relies on power going to the camera to turn it on, and it's as easy as putting a switch in. So a lot of these things you can do. Just to make life easier, and you big canopy that's blocking your view. Yeah. Why not?
So maybe that's something we can look at in in a future episode is reverse cameras and towing mirrors, because that's definitely something.
Absolutely, yeah. Some good ones out there. So, and then the other one I had was some reports are coming out that used car prices are dropping. So I suppose this is a little bit of a heads up that you know, if you're looking at getting a car, consider the used. You might get some bargains.
Yeah.
You know, over the last couple of years, when talk about supply chains again, we're getting tied up, and cars, the manufacturers having problems getting chips and all that sort of stuff. Well, I think it's starting to turn around. The flow of new cars is coming in, which means the second-hand cars are starting to come down.
Yeah, I've been hearing about that from one of the podcasts that I listen to, which is from the VACC, Victorian Automotive Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, right, okay, yep.
And they've been saying that the new cars are skyrocketing. They have their sales facts for Australia each month.
Yep.
But hopefully that's going to bring down a lot of the prices across the used car market, which would make life easier for a lot of people at the moment. A lot of people have been trying to hold on to old cars that are not in great shape because it's too expensive to upgrade or change. So
yeah, that's true. Yep. You sell a car, you got to buy one. So
exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
However, there's one area that it doesn't seem to be touching yet, which is classics or collectibles.
Yeah. I don't see, like, on the real rare stuff, I don't see that really changing. I think that's kind of always been the way. They just go through cycles where their price will surge up, but do they ever come down much?
I don't know that I've ever seen car prices drop in collectibles.
Collectibles, yeah.
And future collectibles as well seem to be going through the roof. There's a fair bit of speculation, I think, in the car market at the moment. So you would have seen Holdens and Fords have started climbing in value.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been paying close attention, but I do have a look at HSVs every now and again, and yeah, I mean, it seems like they're getting pretty hard to get, you know, like at a cheaper price. So.
I did a service on a CV8Z Monaro.
Yeah, cool.
The right one.
Yep, love it.
6-speed manual.
Yep.
Yellow and black car. With 60,000 Ks on it.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah, very cool.
And I did some digging afterwards because I always loved the Monaros. They're selling for up near or past 100 grand again. So, as much as they were new.
Yeah.
So that's pretty insane for a 20-year-old.
It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, the story I can share. I used to have an R32 GTR, and that thing I picked up real cheap, and it was at a time where I suppose it was probably as low as they got price-wise. Really good condition, and the thing more than doubled its value over the lifetime I had the car.
Yep.
But it would have multiplied its value again if I held it even a couple more years. So it's just insane how quickly they can rise.
I've been looking at the GTRs, and you see them up for $300,000-$400,000.
R34?
34s now.
Yeah,
I think some of the 32s are getting pretty steep as well.
Yeah.
Scary.
That was the one that I always related with because of the racing, you know, Jimmy Richards and all that sort of stuff. So I really connected with that car.
Yeah, I've got a controversial opinion with Skylines.
Yep, go for it.
The R33 is my favourite.
Ah, okay. Well, there you go. You save yourself some money that way.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
As soon as they released that Le Mans Blue edition.
That is cool. Yeah. Yep. I'll give you that. Yeah. So not so popular because not as popular for most people because that's when they really jumped up a size in car, and some people didn't like that.
Apparently, but I think from what I was looking at, the performance ended up being very much the same as the 32s.
I think around the track will be quicker. Yeah.
Exactly. But speaking of around the track and racing in general, new episodes, new seasons of Drive to Survive are coming out. So
yes, wait for the day. Always keen for a bit of Drive to Survive, and I think we're up to season 5.
Yep. Now you're a couple ahead of me now because I
think I'm like 4 ahead.
I'm just starting season 2 now with my girlfriend. It took me a long time to convince
I'm 3
her.
heavy then. Yeah.
But how'd it go? How was the new season so far?
Well, I'm halfway through, so I can't say too much, but there's an episode called Nice Guys Finish Last, and it's about our friend Danny Ricciardo. And, you know, I'm a big Formula One fan. I have been, you know, since I was a kid. I've just grown up on the stuff. And I always go for like young talent and Aussies. And the last year, or you could say probably 2 years, even though, you know, the 21 wasn't, it looks like a bad year for Danny Rick, but it wasn't that bad a year. Like, he won a race the second half of the season. He actually did pretty strong if you look at the numbers. But 2022 for Danny Rick was just tumultuous. It was just like really bad, and it's obviously reflected in Drive to Survive. But there is good that comes out of all this, and that's his new role.
Yeah, well, I was listening to another one of my favourite podcasts, the Donut Racing Show.
Oh, yep.
And they were talking about after the first race of this season, being as Daniel's now back at Red Bull.
Yep.
It could be the first time in history that, with the Red Bull's performance, could be the first time in history that a manufacturer can take a 1-2-3 in a two-car championship.
So if he fills a seat or something like that?
Yeah, so if they get to halfway through the season and Max cleans it up, and then they keep Checo in and throw Max in, throw Daniel in Max's spot or something like that, or vice versa. Well, they'd probably take Checo
They've
out,
got
wouldn't
the car to probably pull that sort of stuff off, but
Yeah.
Max is not going to sit out a race.
Christian Horner and Max Verstappen are some of my least favourite characters at the moment. And I'll tell you who really, along with Danny Rick, seems to get a bad knock in what I've seen so far is it Ocon, Esteban Ocon?
Yeah, well, season 1, that's when I think he had a seat and then he lost it, so you probably just saw that. But yeah, things get better for him.
Yeah, I sure hope so, because that's probably one of my favourite characters in the...
It was they painted him as a very likeable character. You know, came from, I don't want to say from nothing, but, you know, you didn't have the privilege that some of the other drivers had, so...
Yeah, from watching it...
Don't mind barracking for him.
From watching it, it's pretty close to home, because his dad's a mechanic too.
There you go,
So.
yeah. So that's that one, and I think we've got more Formula One races coming up, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But certainly Red Bull are by far the best looking car this season.
Yep.
Like,
and
it's a night and day sort of difference.
And Melbourne should be coming up by the time we do our next podcast.
You might be watching this and watching the Formula One in the background or something like that. So the time is good for it. So. Drive to Survive, Danny Rick, reserve seat, warming the seat, but it looks as though Perez, maybe his time is limited. So he is, I believe, the second oldest, maybe the third oldest, between him and Hulk. Certainly Fernando Alonso is the oldest, he's over 40 years old.
Yep.
But there will be people questioning Perez, you know, and his age and those sort of things, and that might be an opportunity for Rick.
Yeah, I tell you, from what it seems so far, the biggest risk to Perez's career is just going to be Max Verstappen. The fact that they don't seem to get along that well.
Yeah, it certainly was. Last year there's pressure on there. Yeah,
and look,
sure.
The sort of things that we saw through last year's season really leaves a bad taste in your mouth about Verstappen. But Red Bull does have their favourite driver, and it's plain to see. So it's a bit of a shame.
He was bred for. I mean, you're not a Max fan. I am. I'm a Max fan.
We can fight about this all day.
Doesn't matter what you say. He's a fantastic driver. He understands the car. He's probably one of those drivers that probably has it feels as though he's got the closest connection to his car.
Yeah, look, I appreciate that he's a brilliant driver. I just, his personality rubs me the wrong way.
I got a fun fact for you.
Go on.
Did you know, so when he signed his recent contract from a year or two ago, got paid the big bucks, went out and bought a private jet. Now, in that jet, he's got a sim rig set up.
Yeah, I heard about this just like 3 days ago.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
brilliant. And he's one of the first drivers to ever be top rated in
Yep.
in sim racing at the same time as Formula One.
Formula One, crazy,
So,
crazy.
pretty mental.
I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, you'd think, but there's a lot of other drivers that can't get to the top of the sim racing.
Well,
So,
just not good enough.
Pretty curious.
Yeah, that's it. Well, onto recalls. So you've come across a couple of recalls lately.
Yeah, so this is maybe not one that affected us so much in the Australian market, but it's one that seemed to affect the American cars. It was the GM throttle position sensor recall.
Yep.
I haven't been able to find too much about it, but I do remember listening to a whole story about it. It was about, 6 or 7 years ago. But the really interesting thing about this, so throttle position sensor recall, throttle position sensor fails, throws you into limp mode or shuts the car down or something like that, which leaves you stranded or in a bad situation or all that sort of stuff. And as always, I haven't confirmed yet, but as always with that sort of stuff, there's a high risk of injury or fatality.
Yep.
But from what I was listening to, it came around just the time that GM had switched their CEO.
Okay.
So it was a huge ordeal for the new CEO coming in. And it also turned out...
Welcome to the party.
Exactly.
Here's a problem for you to solve.
And it turned out that GM had known about the problem previously and had just failed to fix it. So that seems to be a
not good.
continuing theme
Yeah.
in our recalls so far, is that the company knew about it and just chose to ignore it.
Yeah, and I think maybe for the listeners, something to be aware of, that the auto manufacturers may not always have your best interests at heart as an individual. Like they'll cater to broader groups once the numbers hit and all that sort of stuff. But you need to just be a little bit wary that not everything in your car is going to work as it should. And if there is a problem, you need to talk to either the manufacturer or go to a trusted mechanic like Kashi, and they can give you advice.
That's the interesting thing. So while we like to think that auto manufacturers have to look after our safety, and they do, they're also a public company. Right? Most of them are publicly traded companies, which means that their sole duty is to the shareholder. If they don't make the shareholder money, then they go out of business, and it's kind of worth it to consider, is a lawsuit cheaper than a recall for a lot of these people. So if it's $100 million to do a class action lawsuit against 3 people that had a fatality, or it's $200 million to do a recall, then they might try and stay away from the recall.
That's it.
That's speculation only.
Oh, of course, but so I guess what you could do, so if you're having an issue with your throttle position sensor, I think it's going to be pretty obvious. You put your foot down and the engine doesn't respond, so that's probably one. But what other things to look for?
So pretty quick ones, engine light on. But the big cause in the GM recall seemed to be going into limp mode or going into shutdown.
Gotcha.
But limp mode is a pretty good one. We just wrote a blog about this the other week. Limp mode's a really interesting thing. It's actually meant to protect the engine, the drivetrain. So it's not about protecting you as per such. It's all about protecting the car. And you think, oh, why would we need to do that? Well, in the old days, we had just the engine light, which was a brilliant bit of equipment. But people would have an engine light come on and just continue to drive, blow up an engine, be really upset about it. So manufacturers started looking, hey, what can we do to stop this? We could just shut down the car entirely. That would protect the engine. But I guess that leaves you in a pretty bad situation on the side of the road. So they've introduced this thing, limp mode. It cuts all the power. It only lets you get up to like 40 kilometers an hour sometimes. All sorts of stuff.
Enough to get to the mechanic.
And that's exactly what it is. It's enough to either get you out of harm or get you home. and then you take it directly to the
and
manufacturer
get it
or
sorted.
directly to
There
the
you go.
mechanic.
Okay. But for people, for the home gamers, if they're changing a throttle position sensor, whether it's a recall item or not, it's just reached its age and you need to replace it. Pretty simple thing to do, DIY?
Yes and no, depends on the car. So do your research first. A lot of Nissans and Mazdas have to do a fairly complex relearn procedure.
Yep. So you got to plug a computer in to do the relearn, or is it a sequence
of them, yes,
of things
some
that
of
you
them,
do?
no.
Or?
So I think a lot of the Nissans are like, switch the key on, switch the key off.
Yeah.
Wave a stick at it 3 times, rev it to 3,000.
Yep.
Yeah, it's mental. So do your research first. But if you've got one that's a little bit harder, a pretty good scan tool should be able to do that.
Work it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, there you go. And then on to safety. I mean, we've kind of already spoken a little bit about safety, but there are more that we want to talk to. We were talking about coming up to Easter and a lot of people travelling.
Yep.
And one thing that you can easily forget about, but because it's so obvious, just carrying water in your car.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that until you need it, you don't really think about as well.
No.
So I always know that when we were younger, anywhere we'd go, we'd pack a 24-pack of water bottles. But you were telling me that some of the mining companies have a big requirement nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, for a long time now, and I don't remember the exact ruling, but it is something like 5 or more litres per person per day.
Yeah, which is probably spot on as well.
Yeah. So if you get stuck out, west of Whoop Whoop, at least you can survive for a little bit while people try and find you.
Yeah. So when they're talking about that, do you think it's 5 litres per day of travel or 5 litres per day that you're stuck?
Well, you can't. Yeah. I got nothing for that one.
Yeah.
No, I think it's going to be per travel.
Yeah. So.
But you were saying back in like old maritime sort of days, they had a different substance that they used to carry with them.
Yeah. So a lot of people argue it might be the invention of the daiquiri. But because water wasn't potable, water wasn't as safe to drink back in the day. When you're on a ship for a sailing journey, you either had to have, I think it was a quart of beer per sailor per day, or a pint of rum per sailor per day.
Gotcha.
So the rum was to mix with the water. The alcohol killed your bacteria.
Yep.
And I think then sailors would add a little bit of sugar and a little bit of lime to make it more palatable.
And there is your daiquiri.
Apparently, it could just be a rumor.
Okay. All right.
But yeah,
Survival technique.
for as long as we've been around, safe drinking water has been the most important thing for mankind. So make sure you got tons of water on board. I always make sure that I've got at least a bottle of water in the truck. I keep a hand wash station on the truck as well, so that's good for emergencies. And the one time that it's run out, I really felt it. So
yeah.
pretty depressing.
Well, I mean, out there servicing cars, mobile, that would come in handy. Coming across grease and all sorts of things. So.
Probably one other thing that you should always keep if you're out there is a pack of sunscreen.
Yep.
So if
Good
you're
idea.
stuck anywhere in Australia, you don't want to get burnt.
No.
Sun's
no
the
fun.
fastest way to dehydrate.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Well, there you go.
But
We got some products to show.
yeah, well, on from the water.
Shall I grab one?
Yeah, go for it. On from the water. Some of the worst travelling situations is trying to drink a stinking hot bottle of water. So Matt's grabbed us out a couple of these. What are these?
The Brass Monkey.
Brass
We got this is a 15-litre fridge/freezer, so you can put it in either mode. The newest variation of this 15-litre fridge freezer by Brass Monkey has the clip on the lid where the old ones didn't, so you can see that. So it locks in nicely. It's got a sorry, Lachlan, you can't really see that very well, but it's got a really good seal on there. You can see it's pretty well insulated, so it should maintain temperature quite easily. This format of fridge by Brass Monkey is one of the most popular ones that we would sell.
Yeah.
I can't recall seeing one come back. They're just simple, easy, and effective.
Yeah, it's a nice bit of kit. The seal doesn't quite sit proud, but it's pretty close to, so that must be all right. But I saw down the end of the row here, it might not be related, I'm just going to dump this on you. There was a couple of like Brass Monkey battery packs as well. Are those related to these at all?
So I don't think this exact fridge will take one. Let's just have a quick look. No, but you can see on some of their fridges, they'll have a couple of, what do you call it, blank, what do you call it, covers. And you can, on those models, you can pop the cover off and put a lithium battery in its place and power it off there. So I've actually got one of those fridges in my car.
Yeah.
And it saves me from having to do a dual battery setup.
Well, I got gifted a off-brand 12-litre fridge for my birthday a couple of weeks back. And it's not a fridge, it's just a cooler. But it's the same size as this one. This one's got 3 extra litres. It looks like it's a really nice construction as well. And then to have, with some of the bigger sizes, an inbuilt battery pack, that's kind of a brilliant feature.
Yep. So these ones are priced really well, which is why they're popular. To get the battery ones, you're going a jump up. So they do sell, but not quite as well. So you got to really be keen for the battery feature. And I use mine. So what I do, actually mine takes 2 batteries. So it actually goes a little bit on the battery power. But if I'm at the shops and just say I buy some chicken or whatever, some meat, and then I go to another set of shops, I can have that in the fridge and I don't have to worry about it perishing or being damaged by heat. So I can do that and it'll keep everything cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point that the fridges aren't just useful for camping as well. The fridges can be useful around and about town. So I keep mine in my truck. Over the last week when it's been pretty warm and pretty sticky outside, I've had my water bottle in there as well as my lunch. And it's brilliant. Now mine's meant to do some heating as well, but I wouldn't trust it at all. But there's another one that I've got down on my side, which is kind of cool, even cooler than the one you've just shown us. Now, Matt, you were saying this is really popular amongst the four-wheel drive enthusiasts?
Yeah, so particularly some of the Land Cruisers out there that don't have center consoles, so those guys will put this in. So this will be your center console. It's got your, it looks like it's padded, but it's pretty tough. It's got a couple of USB ports on the back, so it is very practical.
A USB port on the front and a wireless charging pad.
Correct.
That's pretty special.
Yep, that's it. I think it's about 8 litres, so you can fit a few drinks in there. But so you've got your cord and your mount. It's actually quite deep.
Yeah,
I reckon you could fit a Tawley in there.
I think you'd probably get a 6-pack of cans in, 6 or 12-pack.
Or 12 might be a
stretch, but
task,
you'd probably get them too deep. It is almost the entire height. And it looks really well insulated as well, which is quite nice. Yeah,
no, they're certainly a popular unit, and you've got a base there. So I guess one of the ideas is that you mount the base to your car, and then you mount this to the base. That way you can pop it on and off.
I do love on this as well. It's got a clip-in, clip-out system. So if you get somewhere you want to take it out and just use it as an esky, then you go ahead and do it. And does this one take a battery pack at all, or is this one?
No battery. No,
bit small.
You plug it in. Yeah.
So it must.
So this is same as the other fridge. This is what they'll come with, which is your just your 12-volt accessory plug, and it's just got a I think it's the same plug that Waco's use, so it's a pretty common
Yeah.
power plug for fridges there. And you can also buy as an optional extra a 240 volt plug setup as well. So if you're traveling, you're staying at your aunt and uncle's or something like that, and you want to bring your own drinks and food, whatever, you can just plug it in in the house and keep it in school. Yep.
I might have to chat to you as soon as my one dies to get one of these center console ones.
Yeah, no, these ones are fantastic.
Cool.
That's cooling. What about heating?
Well, I've had my eye on one of these units for a while. I just can't bring myself to do it.
Yep.
Pie box. Have you had one before? Have you used them before?
No, never. We've been selling these for maybe a year or so now. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people do all sorts of recipes in these.
Oh, right, okay. What's the most exciting one you've seen, recipe?
I can't remember exactly, but I'm sure you could almost get away with a half roast chicken in there or something.
Oh, okay.
It's a pretty big box on them.
Might be a roast quail or something in that one.
Yeah, and what do they get up to?
180.
180 degrees.
That's my motto for cooking in an oven. It's just whatever it is, 180, and
away you go.
Till it looks like it's cooked, yeah.
Yep, but I did notice a couple of really nice features on this. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of this little spiral piece of Coro stuff. However, it's got an Anderson plug on it.
Yep.
Brilliant.
It's handy, yep.
Now, the hardcore...
the power box we were looking at the other day. Yep.
That's an Anderson plug as well.
Yep.
So if you had the hardcore on the back rack of your four-wheel drive, you can just plug this direct into that.
That's the idea.
Pretty brilliant.
Yeah. So nice secure connection.
Yep. It's got a nice inline fuse as well. So
be worried if it didn't.
Well, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we look at doesn't seem to have an inline fuse. They just rely on the car's fuse.
Oh, geez, that makes you worry, doesn't it? Well, I mean, this thing would use a fair amount of power, so
yeah,
you definitely. What sort of fuse has it got?
It's rated at 10.8 on the back of it, and I can't
10.8. That's actually pretty low, isn't it?
Can't quite get into it. There we go. Well, I think on your 12 volt, it'll only let you get to like 130 degrees. But on your 240 volt connection, it might let you get a little higher. Now this is on there, so pretty weatherproof. There we go. It's got a 15 amp fuse.
15, okay. Yep.
So pretty good. And I noticed in the box that it also comes with a USB, like a cigarette lighter plug. With an Anderson connector on that, so you can
on the other end, so you've got that flexibility.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a great little purchase coming up for Easter as well.
Yeah, no. Popular with the full drivers and tourers. From what I see, those guys are doing pies and pizzas and stuff like that in there. It's a handy little addition.
I have noticed that with the fridges, every manufacturer quotes it on the amount of cans that it can hold.
Yep.
So maybe that's the way that we need to look at
how many pies can you fit in there?
How many travellers can go in there?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's got a huge box on it. I saw it came with all the racks to do everything.
Yep.
And really nice stainless steel as well, filled with some sort of fibrous insulation as well.
Yep.
So,
no, they present well, and solid piece of kit.
Yeah, and the nice sprung latch on it too.
Yeah. Very nice.
But for the more traditional four-wheel drivers amongst us, you've got something on your side?
Yeah, so we've got there's a Gasmate burner over here. This is, as the name might suggest, it's gas operated, but so you can see it's got there's a twin burner. I might just flick it around so I can have a quick look at the dials. Simple dial set. Let's see how.
I think those are just your standoffs.
Okay, yep. So there we go. It's just part of the setup, getting that set up there. But it's just a straightforward piece of kit. So you got there we go. We got the destructions. So underneath we've got looks like your tray for cooking on top of. So that's just missing there. So you just pop that on top. So they packaged it really well. There's your gas connection there. So nice and simple. Easy piece of kit to carry around. I mean, it folds up really small, so easy to chuck in your car.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with these things. Some of the best meals that I've ever had on the road were cooked on something like that.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But at the same time, the way that it folds down perfectly. However, these side pieces are pretty thin. They look like they'd get pretty banged up pretty quickly. I did notice that it gets a bit of flex in it pretty easily.
It does have flex, yeah. It's made to be light, I suppose.
However, the biggest thing that annoy me is that plastic clip on the front feels like it's going to break the third time you use it. So we won't touch it anymore just in case.
Don't want to break it? Yeah.
But, I mean, those Gasmate stoves are stupid cheap, right?
You can pick these things up pretty cheap, and you know, they're pretty easily replaced. And I'm just having a quick look at the instructions here, and they're showing how to shield it in an outdoor area. Good luck. I mean, these things are going to be used in outdoors, but I suppose the risk is that the flame gets blown out, and then it's just pumping gas into atmosphere.
Yeah.
And as a safety precaution, you want to be wary of that. Yeah,
and this is where my love-hate relationship comes for these things. They are brilliant. They always work. They're just a mechanical valve with a gas. With a gas feed. So there's nothing to go wrong on them. But at the same time, they are always a little bit flimsy. You're always running out of gas somewhere. You're always the problems you have with them, and maybe it's just me being unprepared, have always given me a love-hate relationship. So maybe next time I'm going out, I'm trying one of these.
Yeah, go
boxes.
one of those, and then if you're considering gas and you want something more sturdy than this, and you've got the setup to do it, if you have a look at like Dometic or something like that, they've got they might have one that's part of a drawer setup or something like that. It's a bit more solid.
Yeah.
And that might be more suited to what you're doing. And one thing that we forgot to mention on the fridges is that there's a series of drop slides and all that sort of stuff for your fridges.
Yeah, so I think you've got a couple hanging out at the front of the store. So maybe next time we can look at a fridge slide in more detail, and maybe have you got anything that'll fit a bit of a kitchen setup as well?
So you can do like a drawer setup for kitchenware, so that sort of stuff is available. And then the slides themselves, the ones that we have there are MSA. So they're actually Gold Coast company.
Cool.
Yeah, so local to us. They do a great job. They make a really nice product. And their hero product is a drop slide. So as you pull it out, it's got a couple of struts and it levers down so that when you drop the fridge, it's at a reasonable height for you to get to. So if you have the space in your canopy, it'd be a great one to put in there.
Yeah, well, it's not so much of a problem for me because my canopy is nice and low.
Yep.
But all the four-wheel drivers I know.
Yep.
And the people that I know that have four-wheel drives are not at the drop slide stage yet. Mm-hmm. So every time they go to get something out of the fridge, they've got to climb up inside the car or climb up on the back of the car.
Sometimes it's cheaper to carry a step around than buy a drop slide fridge.
Yeah, you've got a good point. But if we want to have the best setup, we always go the drop slide.
Yeah, no, they are fantastic, and they're getting better and better. They're actually starting to make them so that they are powered.
Yeah,
so you actually push a button and they come down and up. So
it's very cool, but is it necessary?
No, I think it's just showing off.
Yeah, definitely.
It's cool. We like that sort of stuff.
Shall we wrap it up then?
I think so. Well, guys, it's end of another episode. This is episode 6, and we look forward to seeing you soon. But we want your comments, like, subscribe, all those sort of things, and we'll see you at the next one.
Yeah, so as always, find Matt at Auto1 Browns Plains, find us at Cashy, and look, we're still a new podcast, so leave us a review. Let us know what you think in the comments down below.
Yep.
And if there's anything we can improve on, just let us know, because we'll get better.
Bring it on. All right, guys. Over and out.